Hey, do you know the story about the Lorax? We're gonna read the Lorax today, and I have a little fun thing for you to do later too. I recommend this book for first and second, or maybe potentially third grade readers to read out loud to your little stuffed animals or even to your parents, because this book has a little bit more words than the other books that I've showed you. At the far end of town, where the crinkle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and there's no birds ever sing, excepting old crows. This is the street of the lifted Lorax. Do you know who the Lorax is? And deep in the crinkle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today, where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could, before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax? And why was it here? And was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of the town where the crinkle grass grows? The old Onceler still lives here. Ask him, he knows. You don't see the Onceler. Don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkin at the top of the stove. He lurks in the lurkin, cold under his roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffed moof. And special dark midnight in August, he peeks out the shutter, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of the rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 pence and a nail in the shell of the great-great-great-grandfather's stale, and the shell of a great-great-great-great-grandfather's stale. I wonder how many generations that is. Then he pulls up the pail, makes the most careful count to see if you paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him in his snuffy, his secret storage hole in the gluttonous glove. Then he grunts, I will call you by whisper my phone. For the secrets I tell you your ears alone. Slurp! Down slurps the whisper my phone to your ear, and the old Onceler explains not very clear, since they have to come down through a snangly hose. Then he sounds as if he had gnarly beans, smallish bees up his nose. Now I tell you, he says with this teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, a long, long time back. Way back in the days where the grass was still green, the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean. The songs of the swollen swam rang in peace. One rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and the first thing I saw was trees. The truffula trees. The bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. How do you think the Lorax actually got taken away? Actually, here's something fun for you and me to try today. Today, after reading the Lorax, I decided we should make truffula trees. So, gather 3 or more, or thicker, branches. These are just toothpicks that are really long. And if you're like me and you only have toothpicks instead of wooden chopsticks, then you can use these. But if you have wooden chopsticks laying around, do use those. Always ask for your mother or your parent or your supervisor, because this may kind of be dangerous. So what you're going to do is you're going to tape all of them together. You're going to tape all of them together. And if you have a single really thick chopstick, that is completely fine. Then you don't have to tape it. Just use one. But if you have little tiny toothpicks like me, then you can tape them if you want. Tape them together to create a tiny little sphere. It's like a little, it's like a little spear. You can throw it. Now, you're gonna take a piece of colored paper and you're gonna rip it. You can rip it, but I have a paper shredder where if you put paper through it, it comes little tiny like thin strips. Look at that. Isn't this cool? So if you have like a paper shredder, you can use those. But if you don't, then you're gonna use your hands and you can rip it up. Rip the paper up into thin strips and then fold them together. Fold them in the middle like this. And you end up with a ton of confetti. Then you're gonna do this and you're gonna put them together like this. So you end up with something like the ends of something. And then you're gonna tape it together. You're gonna tape this entire little bundle of paper right together. So you're gonna tape the right edge and you're gonna end up with something like this. Little tiny fluff. Then you're gonna attach it to the end of this. I recommend you attach it to the spiky side so you don't hurt yourself when you try and point this at someone. So get some more tape. You can use glue too, but tape goes faster because it dries faster and sets faster. Or you can use hot glue, but hot glue is dangerous. So I go with tape because tape is not dangerous, I think. Hopefully it's not. So we're gonna tape it together like so. And you have your little own truffle tree. And if you want to, you can add a ton of these on the side to create a better effect. Hope to see you on the next book series.